Well, good day. You're watching Your Vote on Your TV, which is the municipal coverage of our election for this 2022 coming up in October. I'm Mark Johnston, your host, and at this segment I have the great pleasure of welcoming Nicole Beatty, who is vying for a deputy mayor here in the town of Cobourg. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be back in studio. A
real joy to have you, and I know you've already been quite busy working behind the scenes here in the town of Cobourg, but do want to just open up a conversation with you for our viewers about your intent and your hopes for this position as deputy mayor as you move into the election. Curious about your general history here in town as we move into kind of new decisions and new choices by those that are electing officials to council and as deputy mayor and mayor. Tell me a bit about your history here, Nicole.
Sure. I like the way you frame that, new decisions and new choices. So I am a hometown girl, born and raised in Cobourg. I was away for about 15 years living in Australia when my sister started having a family, and so I moved home, thought I'd be here for 3 months, and 10 years later I had the honor of serving on just this past Cobourg Council. For folks who know me or folks who look me up, you know, I'm really invested in citizen involvement. I've worked with family and friends and like-minded citizens in starting and creating various social enterprises and nonprofit organizations in town, notably Local Food for Local Good, Cultivate Community, 100 Women Who Care Northumberland, and a kids chapter of that. And most recently, Think Tiny Homes Northumberland, which is a chapter of Habitat for Humanity, and we're trying to look at innovative and creative housing solutions in Northumberland County. In 2018, I had the honor of being elected to Cobourg Council with the most votes, where I've served as the Planning and Development Coordinator, and I've served on several advisory committees, including the Planning and Development Advisory Committee, our Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Committee, our Heritage Committee, and wrapping up a term as a board member for the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority. My intention for the role, is that one of your preliminary questions? I am ready to do more for Cobourg. I've learned over the last 10 years since being back in my hometown that the best way to support new choices and new decisions in our community is through public service. I spent the greater part of this year talking with voters and residents and having the understanding and the confidence to move forward with my candidacy for deputy mayor. And that's really why I'm excited to take on the role in the next term of council, is to bring that new approach and fresh ideas to governance, innovating our financial processes, updating our policies to reflect, you know, the era that we're in, committed to evolving Cobourg into a sustainable future municipality that focuses on stabilizing taxes, balancing growth and long-term planning, while honoring our commitment to environment protection, social equity, cultural diversification, and economic prosperity.
Wonderful, very well-rounded, and quite a history in the town of Cobourg already, Nicole. Thank you for that. I always like to look when there's an incumbent and someone coming in for this position to talk a bit about that juncture. We know Deputy Mayor Suzanne Seguin has done some work here in town. You've been obviously a very active member on council. You have passion for certain causes and initiatives here in town. I would say this, how have you felt things have gone so far? And how would you like that energy to shift if you were to come into this position?
What I've really been focusing on in this campaign is, I don't think the community, the voter base is familiar with my professional background. So I have over 20 years of experience in financial reporting, budget management, policy development, governance, government relations, and community building that I believe is a balanced skill set and knowledge to transition into the role of deputy mayor. I'm also a community connector. I do feel over the last 4 years we've lost that balance between the connection with the mayor's office, the deputy mayor position, council, and the community. I also feel that I bring a level of understanding of how to balance municipal services while making wise and prudent financial decisions. So to answer your question, Mark, what I've really been doing since the middle of August when I announced my candidacy is getting out in front of stakeholders, talking about my professional experience while understanding how we can do better in building and deepening relationships in Cobourg, and making sure that my communication is very clear while out canvassing and door knocking and clarifying. Yes, I am a community builder and I'm very active in the social sector here in the community. But I genuinely believe, as all members of council do, the role of council is to support the quality of life and the well-being of our community. I clearly have demonstrated that as an active citizen, as a voter myself, as a member of council. But what I really need to make clear and have a conversation with during this campaign is my understanding of our budget processes, very clear understanding of our municipal mandate. Our current deputy mayor has quoted saying that Cobourg can't be everything to everyone. And I actually fundamentally believe that it is a council's responsibility to ensure that their community is a welcoming place for everyone, while again, balancing financial decisions while maintaining our quality of services and protecting the long-term assets of the corporation.
Well shared. Thank you for that, Nicole. You mentioned financial decisions, and let's go to that point because obviously the role of Deputy Mayor, a strong hand and guide when it comes to budget here in town. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the category of budget currently in the town of Cobourg and where you'd like to see things go?
Absolutely. The Deputy Mayor has the reputation, the position is known for being budget chief and managing the budget process. I think we need to remind voters that there are 7 budget chiefs. 7 members of council make the decision on the budget. One thing that I would like to do during the budget process is be an active participant in that budget process, so while chairing the budget. But if I felt that I had an amendment or alternative solution, or I wanted to explore recommendations with staff and council, I would be comfortable in handing over the chair position to the mayor so that I could participate in that conversation. Because I think if we have opinions, we have to follow through with proposed strategies and recommended actions. As a taxpayer in this community, I think what this council has had to navigate and what the next term of council is going to have to manage is a lot of issues and costs that have been percolating over the last decade, almost maybe 20 years, is arriving at our front step. Cost of living increasing, we have aging assets, we have a pier and a harbor that is going to be a multi-million-dollar price tag, and we have to have a conversation of what that looks like for capital management while also not compromising our corporate identity. I would like to see the budget process have some red tape removed so that we can increase staff efficiencies and so that we can get through the budget cycle in an open and transparent manner. We really need to increase citizen input and engagement on the budget. I do applaud this term of council of opening the doors and creating more forums, but we really need to have more citizens inputting and participating in the budget cycle, educating them on the budget cycle. So whether that's open houses or increased opportunities throughout the budget cycle. One thing that really worked for me as a councillor is I had open office hours where citizens were able to drop in, whether virtually or in person, and to help with that education and information sharing, while also obviously connecting them with the staff resources who are hired and have the mandate to bring forward those recommended priorities. But in closing, the biggest task that the Deputy Mayor, myself and Council will have moving forward is how do we make prudent and wise financial decisions without cutting meaningful services and opportunities, investing in our capital infrastructure because we have no choice to do that. And while maintaining a stable and affordable level of taxes in the community that ultimately don't compromise our quality of life.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Nicole. And one of the things I took from your last share was the concept of being front-facing as a councillor, that you are there to connect with the community, you're looking for input, interactivity, and making connections. One of the things I'm drawing out, which is great. Is politics a passion of yours? Has this been the case for some time?
Yeah, this is going to sound like a typical political answer. Community has been a passion of mine for my entire lifetime. I think that is evident. I know it's evident in the work that I do. I've been criticized that I'm trying to build a brand and a personal platform, and I take great offense to that. Everything I do is from a genuine care and compassion for Cobourg. I decided to run for council in 2018 to have a voice at the table and to represent a demographic that wasn't being represented. And I'm going to continue to do that in my community leadership. Politics of higher office, as long as the political platform continues to be the right avenue for me as the way to connect with the community, progress to healthy quality of life, and influence collaboration so that everyone sees themselves in the place that they live, then I will continue to follow that path.
Thank you for that. Let's talk about platform as you bring that up. If we were to say, as we got a few moments from our first break, what would you say is the strongest foot forward on your platform that our viewers should know about?
Yeah, so my platform focuses on 8 themes. I know that sounds quite a lot, but there's a lot going on in the community. What I'm focusing on in my Deputy Mayor campaign are the first 3, which is financial stewardship. So again, it's talking about that investment in innovating our financial approach so that we can balance services with long-term assets. Again, reinforcing my commitment to making wise and prudent financial decisions. Economic resiliency, where the town can continue to progress forward to attract industries that are associated with a living wage job so that folks can afford to live in the community. As well as continuing through economic resiliency, continuing to invest in our own industrial lands. Opening up Kerr Street is a really great example of that, where we've serviced more industrial lands that can create jobs, bring in living wage jobs, and help Cobourg continue to raise discretionary funds that ideally would offset operating costs during the budget cycle. And then forward-thinking governance, and that's really dedicated to 2 parts. Rethinking how our current council composition. I think that we could modernize our structure so that we can be more accessible to the community and be more efficient in our governance. And then just before we break, a few other key parts of my platform, because while I will be deputy mayor, I am a member of council, and council is responsible for the entire corporation. So investing in social infrastructure, advocating for funding and community resources so that we can level up and do the work we need to do, building an inclusive community, investing and planning for a connected and sustainable future. And I don't want us to forget in this conversation, promoting and celebrating our arts, culture, heritage, and recreation sectors, which are both quality of life and economic drivers as well in Cobourg.
Brilliant and well-rounded. Thank you for that, Nicole. We'll take a quick break. My name is Mark Johnston, your host on Your Vote. This is Your TV's coverage of the municipal election in 2022. Our guest is Nicole Beatty, councilwoman who is vying for the position of Deputy Mayor, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm your host, Mark Johnston. You're watching Your Vote, which is Your TV's coverage of the municipal election of 2022. Our guest in studio is Councilwoman Nicole Beatty, who is running for Deputy Mayor this election in October. Councilwoman, share a little bit about your own personal journey. I always like to give a human approach to interviews. So I would say this: what is something that most people don't know about Nicole Beatty?
Oh, wow, right. That's a great question. I am working to publish a piece of literature eventually. That's something I've been working on for a very long time. I don't know. I mean, I'm a pretty open book. I'm a mental health advocate. I've been sober for 6 years. I'm very proud of that. I'm told not to talk about it, but I'm very proud of that. I've met with young youth groups where I think it's really important to show that someone can still continue to evolve in their life while seeking support and therapy, and through my mental health advocacy work, reducing stigma around folk struggle. And I'm human, I'm just like you, and but I really balance self-care with my community work. And I don't think that has ever gotten in the way of performing and serving the community. I'm a proud aunt. I have 10 wonderful nieces and nephews. I mentioned earlier my 3 sisters who are my best friends. Folks will meet them on the campaign trail. They come door knocking with me. Have given me that wonderful gift. I have a bit of a rural background. My parents grew up on farms in northern or northern Northumberland, rural Northumberland. I met the love of my life late in my life. Damien and I are engaged. He's an immigrant from South Africa. Started his own manufacturing company here in Cobourg.
Wow.
He manufactures rainwater harvesting tanks and hardware for hydroponic and aquaponic farming. And through that, I've actually gotten involved in the manufacturing sector, supporting him with some strategic initiatives in people management. And we are currently undertaking the family planning process of becoming adoptive parents, hopefully one day soon.
Wow, deeply impressive, and it touches the heart, Nicole. And I stand as an ally in the world of recovery. That's an incredibly full of integrity journey to make better choices, and then to have that experience to help others in the community, I think is a real plus. So thank you for sharing that. It's great to get to know you more from the human side. And that takes me into more of some of the key questions around the election and what your hopes and dreams are as Deputy Mayor. This idea of, we have a growth forecast here in Cobourg that's quite impressive. People are moving here at a rapid pace, a lot of development in town. What are your thoughts on the infrastructure here in Cobourg as we get ready to welcome more and more people into our fold?
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, you know, that approach to, as a deputy mayor, really wanting to ensure that we are positioned to be that sustainable future municipality that balances growth and long-term planning. In the 2022 budget, the town actually approved and is investing in that long-range planner, because we acknowledge the growth and needing to have the talent to help lead and manage that and connect all the sectors. Sitting on the water committee with Councillor Brian Darling, you know, we've been able to understand how Lucy and our Lakefront Utilities is planning for infrastructure development. I'm pretty confident in our official plan, which has been planning and projecting this growth, you know, in my lifetime, hopefully, and I will see in my lifetime, you know, Cobourg is forecasted to double in population, and we're seeing that in the East End, the last phase of New Amherst to the west. So I'm pretty confident in our official plan and the long-range forecasting we have in place for the servicing. My understanding is that our water resources are intact. You know, there's the adage that development pays for growth. I know it's an increase on some user fees, but you know, you will see our planning fees increasing to be more in line with municipalities across the board, so that we can continue to find revenue alternatives to support that growth. Our ongoing updates of the development charges, and then just kind of rejigging. You know, council just passed how our sewer and sewer management rates, so that we're actually having more of an equitable lens on how we pay for growth through the balancing of commercial industrial to the residential share. So in a roundabout way, you know, we're making the investments now. What the next term of council needs to continue to do is, and as deputy mayor, I really want to bridge that gap, is connecting our budget process with our operational plans, but coming up with that long-term financial sustainability plan and that long-range capital investment plan, so that we can confidently start answering those questions about infrastructure support and projecting that in the 25, 30 years. We have the OP that ranges that, but I personally don't think our current budget forecasting lines up with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for that. You know, as we come through this pandemic experience as a community, I'm curious about your thoughts timeline-wise. You know, things are shifting. We've had lockdowns here in Cobourg, like everywhere. What are your thoughts in terms of priorities coming out of this experience, bringing a community together? We talked briefly off camera about the Eye to Eye International Film Festival took place. Things are moving again, is my point. The Waterfront Festival, which I got to experience for the first time this year, on Canada Day weekend. Where do you put priorities for a community coming through this experience, Nicole, where we've all had to experience what we've experienced? Depending on which side of the spectrum you sit on, we've all had to experience this concept of pandemic precautions, lockdowns. We had a remarkable journey with the vaccine clinic here. It's about moving forward, I would think, today. And what are your thoughts from a town council and deputy mayor position of how do we support the community in breathing new life into our journey coming out of this experience?
Sure, yeah. it's a really big question. And yes, on the COVID efforts, from all our grassroots volunteer organizations that cared for folks who are isolated or vulnerable, our Rotary Club are leading a massive clinic effort, something for the whole province to benchmark against. I think the council has to continue to have more visibility at the Board of Health and our regional integrated health networks, which would be through the mayor's position. The one thing I have heard while knocking on doors, and definitely over the last year, while we reopen and meet together again as a community, are the recreation, heritage, arts and culture sector have felt that they've been left behind or overlooked. So we have a really diverse, vibrant cultural master plan that has to get back into our priority as part of our strategic plan. We've been neglecting our commitment to heritage. We are a heritage town, so we need to be looking at how we revitalize that. And I do think that we've been advancing very exciting initiatives around recreation. We just wrapped up 2 public engagement exercise on what the future of pickleball and a skateboarding park could look like. But to answer your question, the municipality can't pay for everything. But what I do believe in my professional experience in government relations and fund development and community building is that user groups and community groups of various sectors can meet the municipality in the middle. And so I talk a lot about that collaborative approach to community building. And so really investing in those stakeholder groups that have a vision for helping to build our social infrastructure, which is recreation falls under, and what role the municipality can do to leverage our position to access partnership funding and that community resources at the higher levels of government who have that mandate to support these initiatives. So collaboration might sound like an overloaded term these days, but as Deputy Mayor, bringing that a collaborative approach to leadership. And I think that's where I am a very strong candidate as Deputy Mayor and as a member of council, is my years in being a community connector and mobilizing funding and accessing funding and deepening relationships that bridge that gap between the municipality and the community. Because our volunteers, our civic groups, our arts and cultures groups, if we need to invest in those partnerships and leverage that, because they're the folks building community.
Right.
They're the folks offering those experiences. So I look forward to continuing to advance and tighten and deepen those relationships over the next term of council.
Wonderful, thank you for that. You brought a point up about interconnectivity with other levels of government. I'm curious your thoughts there, Nicole. As we move into a new term here in the town of Cobourg for council and mayor and deputy mayor, this idea of doing our very best, I would think, connecting with provincial, federal, at all levels of government, trying to work hand in hand, which can often be a challenge, and it's a delicate balance, I think, in any jurisdiction. What are your thoughts on moving forward through 2022 and beyond, interactivity with the provincial and federal level, and how we can get the best bang for our buck and the most potent results here in the town of Cobourg?
That's, again, another great question, a big question. Intergovernmental collaboration, working with levels of government, I feel is a responsibility of council. Again, I really need to stress to your viewers, I know the lane that, 4-lane highway, I know the lane that the municipality drives in. But in this modern day era, we need to be carpooling. We need to be ride sharing and strategizing with other levels of government, especially when I hear the provincial government and our MPP and our MP, who work very hard for our riding, talk about they're looking for innovative leaders to meet them in the middle and help solve community problems. A small urban municipality like Cobourg is experiencing hurt and hard times that I can't remember in recent times. These issues are on our streets. It's impacting the community well-being of our community. I do believe that the municipality needs to increase its efforts in continuing to align with the county. We have examples of where they've asked us to do X, Y, Z, and we've implemented. We have a close working relationship with our MPP, but increasing that level of engagement and advocacy in a good way, a productive, progressive level of advocacy.
Yes.
It's the only way we're going to unlock partnership funding so that people with the expertise in our community can help council address those issues, from cultural experiences to supporting the most vulnerable, all while balancing community safety and well-being. So I have been criticized of advocating to other levels of government, but I will continue to use my voice to try to bridge that gap between levels of government, because our tax base, it can't pay for it.
Right.
But the other levels of government are not going to really understand and how to make informed decisions if they don't hear from the elected leaders whose responsibility is their home municipality.
I like that very much. Thank you for that, Nicole. In terms of, we have just under a minute left here. I'd love to end with this. What are you most excited about here in the town of Cobourg as we move into the election and we move forward from those choices being made by our voters? What makes you most passionate about still being here in Cobourg?
I'm most excited in my personal life to be raising my family here soon one day. What I'm really excited about is the people of Cobourg. Our community, all communities are a reflection of the character and charm of the people and places that make up the community. I'm really excited about the level of engagement that has been building over this term of council and will continue into the next term of council.
Again, I'm Mark Johnston, your host here on Your Vote. It's Your TV's coverage of the municipal election of 2022. We've had the great pleasure of hosting Nicole Beatty, who is running for Deputy Mayor here this election. Nicole, thank you again.